Hello, hello, hello. This is Els coming to you from Beamish Crafty Corner. And, well, these things got me started. So my mega ATCs got me started. So I'm going to have to start my Gatsby journal. So I've been collecting stuff for this for a while. And, you know, I've got paper and all kinds of ephemera and borders and stickers and cigarette cards and I mean you name it, and I've got it for this book. So about time I start. So I got to start on it today, and let me catch you up to where we're at. So I started with a book. Now I bought these a couple of weeks ago, just before Christmas actually, at the thrift store, and I gutted them. And the reason that I bought them, two reasons. One, they were on sale half off, so they cost me about $1 a piece. And two, when I looked down on them like this, they were all already pretty, you know, gone. So I could just cut the piece right out. So all I had to do was really just cut along here, and the whole paper piece came out. Fear not, it did not go to waste. It went into Amy's capable hands. So I have a book cover. I have some chipboard to reinforce my spine. I have some Tyvek, and I have over there, and I'm going to get it. Hold on. Y'all know how this works, right? Some of the Italian wrapping paper. Now, the Italian wrapping paper, the glitter comes off pretty easy, and it gets all over my hands, and I hate it, and it's yucky as far as the, you know, getting all over me. So basically what I've done is I have taken a piece of the Italian paper and covered the outside of my book. I have cut a piece of this, and I have used it to reinforce the center here, and then glued a piece of Tyvek over the top. So that's kind of where we're at. So let me get rid of some of this stuff, and we will take a look at where we're at. So this is where I am. This is my book cover. And to make sure that I don't get this gold all over me, because we all know how much I love glitter, let me get rid of the purple hands. I have covered this in Mod Podge. So, Italian wrapping paper, fold it over, little alines and water, and I only add a little water to the alines so that it smooths around. And I use a brush, and I just coat the whole piece of paper, and then I put the book down, clip my corners, and then I begin folding them up. And what I do is I turn the book over, and I hit it with a brayer to make sure that I get all the air out before it dries. Then I turn it over, and I'm using the brayer on the ends as well. And then I use the brayer on the Tyvek. Now this one's all glued up and ready to go. So and then I got together a couple of signatures, because I figured 2 signatures will fit kind of nice in here. Okay, those will fit nice. Of course, you know, it's me, so it'll be gator mouth. And I have gotten rid of the creep on both of my signatures, and they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages a piece, which will give me 80 usable pages in the book. So these are going to go right here. So moving on with the Gatsby journal, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to finish the inside of this, and I've decided I'm going to do some decoupage. I have some wanted posters and some prohibition stuff that, you know, and just basically some mob stuff and things like that, that I've printed on some coffee dyed paper, and I'm going to be cutting those up. And I found a use for washi tape, right? So I'm using the washi tape around the outside, and that's just to protect it, because I need to color the back of this. So in order to do that, I have used some cinnamon brown acrylic paint and a little water, mixed it together to thin it, and I'm just going to be painting this rather loosely throughout my entire inside cover. And the idea here is not so much to paint as to just kind of add a little tint to the background here. And I'm using the washi tape to create sort of a line. And I want this to look pretty rough. So we're not looking for perfection, just kind of covering. Okay? It's pretty easy. A little bit of paint. A couple of spritzes of water. A stick to mix it together. You guys know how to do this. I know I don't normally use a foam brush, but I figured the foam might be a little better to get into some of these spots because it has a more direct tip on it. And I want to get all those little cracks and crevices, and there we go. Told you, it doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to get coated. Because I'm going to cover this up with the Mod Podge and decoupaging my pieces on. But I do want this to have a little bit of color underneath. I'm just painting right over the washi tape because I'm going to peel that off. But it's allowing me to get a nice sort of straight looking edge here. I just want this to be kind of muddy and dirty looking and, you know, old. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using the water and the paint just to kind of age this a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to pull the tape off, and then we will be able to get started on the decoupage, okay? Just going to blot up any excess that I see and let this dry, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have cut out all of my images and kind of laid them out where I want them, and I am going to be attaching them, sort of Mod Podging them down. What I'm going to actually be using is Duraclear Soft Touch Varnish. This gives a velvet finish to stuff, and it's what I commonly use when I'm making my faux leather. So I'm going to put some of this out, and we're going to get started on this first piece. I'm just going to brush some of this on, making sure that I brush the whole area. Because I do want the whole area to have sort of the same consistency. So we're going to brush that on. We're going to put this down. Put it up here. And we're just going to use this to decoupage this on. Making sure we get all the little air bubbles out. We don't want air bubbles. Okay. We're just going to continue to do this, and I'm going to add a little bit of glue just for extra stay on these pieces that I'm overlaying. Go ahead and put this piece in. And then I'm going to be putting this piece over the top. Just like that. A little bit of glue here on the corner. And then I'm going to come back in again with my Duraclear. And I'm just going to cover these up. Make sure we get this all tacked down. And then we're going to work on the other side. Again, we're going to be starting at the bottom piece, getting this one set. I'm going to put a little Duraclear on here before I lay these in. Here we go. Bottom piece first. Decoupage it down with my medium. Now the next piece is going to be this one right here. Now these, I didn't necessarily cut them with the scissors. Some of them I just used a sharp edge on a ruler and tore them so they had a little bit more of a vintage look to them. There's really no need to ink any of this. Again, we're going to come in, get this down. Can't forget Ma Barker. Got to have Ma Barker and anything that has to do with the Roaring 20s. Nice, sweet little old lady that she was. Get this glued in. Now, because you're getting the paper wet, it is going to warp a little bit. That's okay, because that just gives it a more authentic look. And then, of course, Machine Gun Kelly here. I think we got the big ones. We got Lucky Luciano, Machine Gun Kelly, Ma Barker, and, of course, Al Capone. Because after all, what would the Roaring Twenties be without Al Capone, right? Like that. Just coat this over. Make sure we get it all stuck down. Glued in. Now, I could put some in the middle if I wanted to, as far as my images, but not really the look I'm going for. So then I'm going to come back and I'm going to make sure that I've got this whole thing well treated, the whole inside of the book, and then I've got my images very tightly snugged in there. And then I'm going to let this all set up and dry, and it'll take about 30 minutes to dry. So I'm going to give this about 30 minutes. I might hit it with my heat gun just to get it nice and dried up and get that look that I'm trying for here, which is kind of a vintage wrinkled look. Okay, so I like that. I like the coverage I've got. I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, and I'll be right back, and then we'll get started on sewing in our signatures. All right, so for the next step, what we need to do is we need to figure out where we're going to be putting our holes to be able to put in our signatures. So you need to take a piece of cardstock. You don't need to do this. This is the way I do this. I'm going to take a piece of cardstock, and I'm going to cut it down to an inch wide, because when I put it in at an inch and I close the book, I'm not disturbing, I'm not hindering the book from closing in any way. So the inch is right for me. And then I'm going to go about figuring out where my lines go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ruler across here, and I'm just going to make a mark at the 1/2 inch. And I'm going to go half that distance to the edge. So since I'm going to be putting 2 signatures in here, I'm going to be going at the 1/4 inch and the 3/4 inch of an inch. That's what I'm going to mark at. So I'm going to line up my ruler a couple of places down. I'm going to go at the 1/4 inch and at the 3/4 inch. And I'm just going to do that a couple of spots down the page. So 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch, and the same at the bottom. 1/4 inch and 3/4 inch. What I'm doing is I'm creating a template. Then I'm going to draw a line straight through all of my marks. At the 1/4 inch, and then again at the 3/4 inch. And that's going to tell me where I'm going to place my stitches. Now, where am I going to place them? Along here. So I'm going to use a 5-point binding. And this is about 8 3/4 inches. So the first thing I'm going to do is come in a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go to 8 1/4 and put a mark. And I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to put a mark at a 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to come in to the middle of that. So I need to find the distance between. So the easiest way to do that is to move my ruler over. It takes me to 7 3/4. And I'm just going to split the difference. So from 0 to 7 3/4, if we go to 7 1/2, that's easier to divide. That's 3 3/4. And then we're just going to split the difference. So we're going to go to 3 7/8. That's my midpoint. Okay? Now I'm going to put those lines right here. So I'm going to move my ruler back to the edge. I'm going to come in a 1/2 inch at the bottom, a 1/2 inch at the top. Then I'm going to move my ruler over to put my 0 mark here. And this one at 7 3/4. And then I'm going to come in and go at 3 7/8. And then I'm going to split the difference between those marks. We'll say that's about 2 inches. It's not perfect, but it's pretty spot on. And 6. So then I'm going to come back over here, line everything up. I'm going to go at 6 and 2. And then I'm just going to draw my lines across. Now, everywhere my lines cross is where I'm going to be putting a hole. Okay, so now that we've poked the holes in our book itself, we are going to be poking holes into our signatures. And we need to determine which one's going to be left and which one's going to be right. And it really doesn't matter. But what we are going to do is make sure that we have all of our papers lined up. We're going to be using some clips just to hold everything in place. And then we're going to take this, fold it, putting the top at the top and the bottom at the bottom, setting it right into the groove, and using some kind of foam or matting to kind of suck up the hole as we pop it through. We're going to put in the template, and we're going to push that template all the way down in at the fold, and we're going to make sure that we have the same amount top and bottom. To make sure that once we do this, it lines up, you can just take your pencil and put a line on either side that says, this is where my paper was. All right, so now I have it down in there. I'm going to place it on my foam mat. I'm going to take my awl, and I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to pop a hole. I'm going to pop a hole. Pop a hole. A hole. And the last one right down here. A hole. Now, this is my left side, okay? So I'm going to place it so that my clips are on the left. I'm going to take the other one. I am going to fold the other side of my template. See, I've got those lines right there on either side. Those lines are going to tell me where this goes. So I'm going to find the center of this signature. Should be right there. Make sure I've got it all nice and lined up. Put a clip on either side. Place my template in. Press it down into the fold. Make sure that I have my line lined up. Stand it on edge. Holding that down into the fold. I'm going to do, hey now. Okay. I'm going to press this down into the fold. I'm going to come into the middle, and I'm going to go through the paper. And then I'm going to go down the other way, making sure that I keep that seated right into the fold. Okay? And that puts all of my stitch holes along my fold. Now, this is my right side, so I'm going to keep the clips to the right. That makes sure that I know where my top and bottom are. All right, so at this point, if you're going to be putting a dangle hanging off of your book from someplace, now is the time to pop the hole, okay? So you'd want to put your hole in, you know, towards the top and put your loop in or whatever you're going to use to hang your dangle. We are going to be binding this book today. I'm going to be using, excuse me, my book binding kit. And what I'm going to be doing is looking for a thread that kind of blends a little bit. And I think it's going to be, yeah, I like this one better. So I'm going to be using this one today. This is waxed thread. And I'm going to be using a large needle. This is a doll maker's needle. It just has a large head on it, but it's a rather narrow needle. And I like this one, so that's the one I'm going to be using. And I may possibly be using a band thimble just to help me get it through. So I'm going to take some of this thread off of here. And generally, I like to go about 2 times the length of the book, give or take, and then a smidge. So go ahead and cut this. We'll get this put away. Now, a bookbinding kit like this, you can pick up off of Amazon. I'll link this one too for you. This one comes with 4 different colors of the waxed thread. It comes with some curved needles and all, some butterfly clips, a brush for applying your glue, a small ruler, and a bone folder, plus a razor knife and a couple of bookbinding needles and a pencil. So it comes with everything you need to bind a book, and it's a little less than $20. So not a bad deal, actually. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and thread up my needle. Get in the hole. Okay. It's into the hole. Now, I don't want my end of my thread to come through. So there's a couple of things that you can do to make sure that it doesn't come through. You could put a large bead on the end to prevent it from coming through, or you can just be really careful, okay? So I'm going to turn my book over. This is my top. This is my right-hand side. I know this because I have my clips on the right. And all I'm going to do is take my clips off. You may want to leave the clips on. I'm going to put my needle through the center hole. And I'm going to go right through the center hole of the book itself. And just draw that through. Now, as I'm watching the thread, as it starts to disappear here, that's when I'm going to stop. I'm going to go up. And I'm going through the book back, through the wall of the book. And I'm going into the hole that I created with my awl on the inside of my papers. Oops, I missed one. I missed a page. Oh, heavens. There we go. Still missed one. All right. It's being stubborn. There we go. And I'm just going to bring that back through. Then I'm going to go down through the top hole and out of the hole in the book. Then I'm going to come back down and go right back through the hole that I just went through previously. Back through my paper. And I'm trying to do this so I can show you guys. So I'm coming back through that same hole on the outside of the book right here. I'm going to come back through that hole. And on the inside, I want to go right back through the hole that I came out of originally. It's really hard to do this when you're trying to show somebody else how to do it. Then we're going to go back down through the middle hole and back down through the hole in the book, trying to not stitch through our stitch. Then we're going to go from the outside back through to the inside, going through the hole, get in the hole here, and through the paper. Then back down through the bottom hole and through the book. We're going to repeat the whole process, coming back up, through the paper. Now, I have a tail and I have a tail. I'm going to bring the top tail first off. I'm going to pull these towards the center. That's going to secure this and make this a little tighter. If you need to manually move these to snug them up, do that now. Bring them to the center, because if you pull them the other way, you're going to tear your paper. So bring them to the center, then take the top, that one that's on the inside, move it to the top, and take your needle under both strings, the loop and the top. Now you can pull them against each other. And then you're going to use this one, is your right over left, left over right, and create a square knot. Once you've done this, you can cut these threads. Cut them as long or as short as you want. Okay? Now, I have one signature in the book, and we're going to be placing the left signature into the book. Exactly the same way. We're going to go down through the center, up through, down, back up, down, back up, down, back up, tie. Okay? Okay, let's take a look at where we are so far. So we started off with just an old book cover that we opened up and gutted. We reinforced the spine on it because, you know, that's not very good. We reinforced the spine and brought it up to the level of the book page itself. Then we went in and we covered that spine area with some Tyvek, which I didn't really do anything with other than just leave it on there. I did paint this over with an acrylic water wash just to get that color using some washi tape. There's a way to use your washi tape to block it off so that I didn't get the whole outside piece. And then I just got some images that were related to Prohibition and mobsters and flappers and the whole 20s. And I've simply attached those here using the DuraClear sealer that gives me that kind of velvety feel. I love that feel. Then I went ahead and created 2 signatures. And for the signatures in this book, I basically just used some parchment and some linen paper, and then just a few coffee dyed, tea dyed. I did add some actual lined paper in this one, but mostly it's just coffee and tea dyed paper and parchment. 20 pages in each signature. I created 2 signatures in here. Now I have space in the middle. I see this space. I'm not done with this. We're going to talk about that on the next part of this. We went ahead and put some Mafia wanted posters for America's Most Wanted here in the back and put in our second signature. We've got them all sewn in. We went ahead and edged them down so that they fit within the confines of the book. At this point, we are pretty close to done with getting it bound and everything. We're just going to be working on the piece that I'm going to be putting in the middle. And then we're going to start decorating the pages. Okay? So until I see you again, do me a favor if you haven't done so already. Go ahead and subscribe down there. Like me, ring my bell, and share me with all your friends. Because I'm making a book on the Roaring 20s and the mob and Prohibition and stuff, you know. Do look for the things that I have used to create this in my Zibbet store, as well as the links below where I will give you the links for the bookbinding kit, the DuraClear that I use, and a few other items that you've seen me use today. Until then, bye-bye.